Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I am here to do an HP Chats video, but specifically one that is being highly requested. Today I'm going to be discussing Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. This is a play by Jack Thorne, and it is based on an original story by J.K. Rowling, John Tiffany, and Jack Thorne. And I'm going to start with a spoiler-free section, which is going to be really short, and then I'm going to get into my discussion. And I'm also going to put this down because this is going to be a long video and I don't need to hold it the whole time. There you go, you can still see it. So it's all okay. So first, a quick intro to the play. It is the new Harry Potter. Basically, it is a play that has been on the West End. It runs for 2 nights, which is a very, very long play, and it is supposed to be the 8th story. It is about Harry 19 years down the road. It is mainly about his son, Albus, as well as Scorpius Malfoy, Draco's son. Let's just start right off by saying, in case you don't already know this, I did not like this play, basically at all. When I was deciding what to give the play overall, I did kind of a rating breakdown. There are 4 acts. I gave each act a different rating and then I averaged them out, and that became my official rating for the play. I gave Act 1 3 stars. Act 2 I gave 1.5 stars. Act 3 I gave 0.5 stars, and Act 4 I gave 3.5 stars, and that averaged out to about 2.1 overall, so this was a 2-star read for me. My main problems, I felt that this play was absolutely full of plot holes, especially going along with old canon elements of the series. Character development and character choices, to me, made absolutely 0 sense with the characters that I have loved for years of my life, and I will talk about that more specifically when I get into the spoiler portion. It romanticized abusive characters, left out important characters, and overall had a plot that read to most, and to me, like bad fanfiction. Also, queerbaiting galore, but again, I will get into that more later. The good about this play, I will say that there were 2 things that I really, really appreciated about this play. First of all, Scorpius as a character, I really, really loved him. I loved what he brought to the character. I loved what he brought to the Malfoys and to Slytherin house in general, and he was super appreciated. I was also an enormous fan of the development of Draco Malfoy as a character, which is something I have wanted for years. I have always looked for more Draco development, and it seemed like J.K. Rowling especially wasn't going to offer that. And there were multiple points in this play when I just I wanted to cry a little bit because of how much I loved the development that Draco Malfoy finally got. Okay, so that's it for the spoiler-free section. That's all I'm gonna say for spoiler-free because I want to fill up most of this video with talking about the things I had issues with. So, if you haven't read the play, if you don't want to know what happens, then leave. Leave now, because I'm going to start spoiling right now. Okay, so this play was about time travel. I hate when time travel is used as a plot device, and this did all of the things that I hate about time travel as a thing. Time travel is interesting to me, but only when it's done well, and I don't think it was done well in this instance. Basically, in case you are still watching and you haven't read the play, it's about a time turner and going back to the Goblet of Fire and bringing Cedric Diggory back to life because he was an unfair person who died in the war. That's kind of the plot of this play. I'm not going to explain everything because that would take literally the entire duration of this video. Let's just jump in and get this right out of the way. I abhor Snape. I think Snape is a vile character. To me, he has 0 redeeming qualities and just is a terrible human. He is an abusive character. He is abusive to multiple children under his care, which, by the way, should not be allowed. If you have a teacher that is emotionally abusing children to the point that that teacher is one child's worst fear, that teacher should be fired, regardless of what else is going on in their life. I fully believe he does not experience love for Lily. He experienced lust and obsession, and makes claims that are not his to make to Lily. Which is why Act 3 of this play got 0.5 stars from me. I felt ill reading the scenes where Snape was present. Snape did not save the Wizarding World. He was not the hero that made it possible to save the Wizarding World. In fact, he is basically the reason the Wizarding World was in jeopardy. He is the reason that Lily and James died. That was his fault. So Scorpius showing up and being all, but Harry said you saved the wizarding world. I had to set the book down and pace because I was so furious and horrified that in the wizarding world is what people were saying. I have always had a problem with Albus being named Albus Severus. First of all, don't put that kind of pressure and baggage on your son, Harry. You picked the two people you have like the most baggage with in the world, and you gave your son those two names. Like, way to project, buddy. So, basically, Snape is not a hero. It was terrible that that was included. And the way that he discussed Lily as though he had any kind of claim to her continues to make me horrified and repulsed. The fact that Hermione called him by his first name and he called her Hermione, like, made me ill. It made me ill to see them call each other Severus and Hermione. Ugh. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. I don't agree with excusing emotional abuse, and years of emotional abuse do not get fixed by doing one thing that was good, and even that was for the wrong reasons. So let's just get that out of the way, jump over that log. No. Let's jump into some other stuff. As a quick subheading for this portion, I'm just gonna go quickly say missing characters was an issue for me in this play. I just didn't understand some of the characters that were and were not present. Teddy Lupin, where was he? I don't understand where Luna was. I don't understand why George didn't get mentioned. Hugo got one mention, I believe, near the end of the play. I thought it was odd, the fact that the Potter children, besides Albus, were absent for a duration of the play. Like, during Harry Potter, the smallest thing would happen to one Weasley, and all those Weasleys were getting yanked out of Hogwarts. So where were James and Lily? I just don't really understand how that worked. Additionally, I don't really understand why Neville wasn't a part of the plot. Yes, he got mentioned, and at least it was acknowledged that he was still around, but I feel like the past has shown that if stuff is going down, Neville is going to be present. Although I have to say that him and Luna being absent, maybe that was a good thing. At least they were excluded from this plot for the most part, and I'm sure that made me really happy because Neville's my fave. Now let's jump into characterization, and first I want to talk about the main timeline characterization of especially the trio. And one of my main issues at the very beginning of this play, before I started to see some of my other problems, was that this was not my Harry James Potter. This was not Harry 19 years later. This was a different person. My Harry is snarky to the extreme. He says stuff like, "There's no need to call me sir, professor." That boy is sassy, and that was absolutely not shown in this play. Additionally, Harry felt for 11 years of his life that he didn't get love. Like, he lived under stairs. He was treated horribly. He was emotionally abused. And throughout the years, whenever he gained a father figure, that father figure tended to be taken from him. So don't tell me for 1 second that Harry James Potter would see his son and say, "Sometimes I wish you weren't my son." Never, ever would Harry say those things. He spent his whole life searching for love, searching for his own family, and you think that because him and his son got into a disagreement, he would say something that horrible? Never mind that he apologized for it instantly. Harry, raised the way he was raised, would not say that. Ron, this was movie Ron. This was in no way my Ronald Weasley of the books. Ron is not a throwaway joke. Ron is not a punchline. He was an integral part of the trio for all 7 books. He was smart in his own ways. He beat McGonagall at wizard chess when he was a kid. Ron is another character I could do a whole video about because I think that the treatment that he gets is horrible. And as I recently saw in a beautiful Tumblr post, Harry would be furious if he saw the way that some people treated Ron Weasley, and I think he would be horrified if he saw the way that Jack Thorne treated Ron Weasley. And Hermione. I suppose I have less of a problem with the way that Hermione was portrayed in this play, except for other timeline Hermione. I will get to other timeline Hermiones later on because those were horrifying. But main timeline Hermione, I guess, was okay. I just don't really agree with the fact that she was the Minister of Magic. Not that I don't think she would be cut out for that part in the wizarding world, but I don't think that that is a job she would have wanted. I think Hermione is a little too ruthless and a little too used to breaking the rules to be in charge of everything. I don't think that she would want to be quite that involved in the bureaucratic red tape of the wizarding world, and so that just kind of felt off to me. I guess I could accept that, but it still just didn't feel quite right. I don't understand where Rose's characterization came from. That child was not the child of Ron and Hermione. If you think that Ron and Hermione would raise a child to be that prejudiced and terrible, then I don't know what to tell you. She acted like she was raised by Lucius Malfoy, not Hermione Granger and Ron Weasley, and it was also super annoying that she just got pushed aside to be the love interest to a queer-baited romance. I can accept Ginny Weasley and her characterization, and that's about as far as I'll go. It was fine, not amazing, and I think that she could have had a bigger role, but I really enjoyed a couple of the conversations she had, especially when she talked to Draco and Harry about how much she and Draco had envied the Golden Trio. I really appreciated that element of Ginny and some of those discussions. And Draco. So yes, I'm gonna gush a little bit about the characterization and the development that we got of Draco. I was so happy to see an honest discussion of the way that Draco was raised and the ways in which he did not have a choice in that. I have always called Draco the boy without a choice, and it was so wonderful to see that put on paper, and I could be like, yes, right here. The scene where he said that all he had ever envied was the friendship that Harry, Ron, and Hermione had was a lot, and I got a little bit choked up. I couldn't believe my eyes when I started reading the section where he had a discussion with Harry about father figures and the fact that he had never wanted to be that person, and really the only thing he wanted was to play Quidditch and be happy. He was such a good dad. He was everything that I wanted him to be after being raised by Lucius Malfoy, to turn around and recognize the faults in the ways that he was raised and be just a wonderful, supportive person in his son's life. Can you imagine Draco Malfoy going to his father and crying because he wasn't allowed to hang out with his best friend anymore? Do you think Lucius would have responded well to that? Say what you want about Narcissa and Lucius caring about their son, but they were not kind to him. And Draco saw a problem, saw his son was hurting, and immediately went to fix the problem honestly and begged on behalf of his son. It was beautiful, and I wanted to cry about it. So now I want to talk about the characterization of the trio and some of the other characters in the alternate timelines that happen over the course of this play. Mainly my issue comes with the characterization of Ron and Hermione, and the main one is the timeline in which Hermione was the defense against the dark arts teacher. It's another one of those things where I just feel like nothing could lead me to believe that Hermione would ever become a teacher like Snape, which is, I feel, exactly what happened. I don't understand a world in which her not getting together with Ron would completely reverse her personality and everything she stood for to make her become a horrible, cruel teacher. Because this is the girl who spent, you know, as many classes as she could whispering under her breath to Neville to make sure that he didn't incur Snape's wrath. She wanted to make sure that he succeeded and felt victimized constantly by Snape herself. And in no way do I believe that just because she didn't marry Ron, she became a horrible, cruel person. Especially one that is cruel to, like, I don't understand why she would be cruel to Albus, because even if she didn't marry Ron, her, Ron, and Harry spent 7 years being absolute best friends, and they just left and never spoke to each other again? That just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me that Ron would call her Professor Granger and not Hermione, as though they were so formal. Like, the battle ended and that was it. They were just like, well, it's been fun being your closest friend for 7 years, but adios. Like, it just doesn't work for me. Also, super didn't appreciate the fact that the beginning of Ron and Hermione's relationship was boiled down to just jealousy. That is a frustration for me personally as a person who adores their relationship. I think that it was a lot more than that. I think it was built up over years, and I don't think that it was just jealousy that caused that beautiful relationship to happen. And the last thing that I just want to talk about characterization-wise with alternate timelines is I also don't see a world in which McGonagall would ever allow herself to be pushed around by her students. Harry walking in and being like, do this, I say so, and her just agreeing to that does not seem like McGonagall. I just feel like she's been through too many generations of troublemakers at this point to just bow to the whims of Harry Potter. Additionally, I don't really understand why Harry would ever treat her that way. This is a kid who crucioed a person because he spat on McGonagall, and like, that level of care for McGonagall just going away till he treats her the way he did doesn't make sense to me. And as a last note, the Marauders would be rolling in their graves if they knew Harry was using that map to keep two friends apart. I don't see the map agreeing to be used that way. You know, McGonagall saying, "I solemnly swear I'm up to no good," which she would never agree to do. Now I want to talk about Cedric really fast and my issues with the way that Cedric was used in this play. Basically, I really disagree with the fact that just because Cedric was supremely embarrassed, he would become a Death Eater who was evil enough to kill Neville Longbottom. That doesn't work for me on a number of levels with Cedric. He consistently shows himself to be beyond fair. The fact that he told Harry about how to open the egg because he thought it was fair. The fact that he wanted to take back catching the snitch because he didn't think it was fair that he'd caught the snitch when Harry was clearly in trouble. Cedric is the person who wanted everyone to stop wearing Potter Stinks badges. He's also the person who wanted to win the goblet with Harry by his side. And I'm just really frustrated that we are supposed to change our memory of Cedric to believe that just because he got embarrassed during the trials, that would turn him into such a dark and harsh person that he would not only go over to the other side, but kill Neville. And saying that Cedric could go dark, especially due to something as small as embarrassment, is frankly a sad way to remember him. Plot! To me, the plot was utterly ridiculous, and basically, if you want to get anything out of the characters, you have to completely ignore that the plot is happening in front of you. It did read like bad fan fiction. It read like My Immortal, but with a much higher budget. It read a little bit like a Harry Potter sequel, but with a higher budget. Except for the fact that a Harry Potter sequel handled a lot of things better than this did. For example, the Time Turner storyline made a lot more sense in a Harry Potter sequel. Ron was much better characterized in a Harry Potter sequel. Oh, and a Harry Potter sequel, much like all of the Potter plays, had actual canonical gay characters that were shown to be gay. The plot, in my eyes, was convoluted and nonsensical. They give a throwaway line so that you'll accept the Time Turner storyline, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense still. There are huge timeline issues. Supposedly, Bellatrix had a child right before the Battle of Hogwarts. There are so many problems I have with that. First of all, Draco would have known. Bellatrix was living at their house, and it would have been around the time that the trio was there. So, like, Draco was living with Bellatrix. Him not knowing Bellatrix was pregnant makes no sense. But more than that, Voldemort having a child makes no sense. The whole point of Voldemort as a character was that he was on his road. He was on the way to immortality. If he is achieving immortality, then he has no need for an heir. Plus, it is shown over and over again that because he was conceived due to a love potion, he's not really capable of feeling love, so he wouldn't have fallen in love with Bellatrix. And I also don't really see him taking time out of a war to go sleep with Bellatrix, because it doesn't really seem like he had interest in the sex. And Delphi, by the way, was pulled straight out of My Immortal. She was so Hot Topic, silver-haired, flying bird girl who was descendant from Voldemort. Like, I laughed out loud multiple times when stuff happened with her, and when they actually said the words, maybe Voldemort had a daughter or something along those lines, like, I laughed out loud. I also laughed, by the way, when they said, "You're gonna ruin Voldemort Day." And I want brain bleach for the Trolley Witch, because what the hell was that? Okay, so this is the main portion of what I wanted to talk about, and clearly this video is super long already, so I apologize. Who knows how long this is gonna be, but you stuck around for it. Let's talk queerbaiting. I'm gonna grab this again. So I tabbed this heavily. Every single tab meant something. I don't know if you can see the colors there, but pink is for queerbaiting. Clearly there were a lot of those moments. Queerbaiting is a relationship in which two same-sex characters have a relationship that has clear romantic undertones or is written in a way that is clearly supposed to make you feel like maybe there's a possibility they're gonna be a thing. And the main thing with queerbaiting is that it seems like the whole time there are these undertones, there are these clear romantic tension moments, these signals that they are more than friends, only at the very last second to have it snatched away and for there to be a heterosexual love interest suddenly introduced to make it no homo. Albus and Scorpius was clearly queerbaiting. They are coded as having specifically more than platonic feelings for one another, especially when within one page of space they are told that they cannot see each other again, and the play specifically describes each of them as heartbroken. There is that whole section in the play where they are shown that they cannot live without one another. It is breaking them down. Scorpius is clearly shown to be jealous of Albus's attentions towards Delphi. It says, Scorpius looks at his friend talking to a girl, and a part of him likes it, and a part of him doesn't. He is consistently shown, by the way, to be jealous of Albus's relationship with Delphi. As disgusting as this comparison is, it is the thing that I think is the most damning. There is a direct comparison drawn between the way Snape feels about Lily and the way that Scorpius feels about Albus, and in the context of the play, we are supposed to believe that Snape does feel love for Lily and that we are all supposed to buy that. Clearly, I think Snilly is disgusting, but there is still that direct comparison drawn. Snape says, I did it for Lily, you have to do it for Albus. If you are drawing direct comparisons between an established heterosexual relationship between two same-sex individuals, that's like, it's right there. That's right there. That scene disgusted me, but I was also like, okay, this is very clear. But at the very end, instead of Scorpius asking Albus to go to a dance, he suddenly appears and says he might have a chance with Rose. Now, I'll agree that Albus's attentions towards Delphi were believable and established, but that does not negate the fact that he could still feel romantically towards Scorpius. However, Scorpius and Rose were it was such a set-in relationship, just to no homo everything. Rose is cruel to Scorpius constantly. She is mean to him for years. They never have a good conversation. She kicks him when he asks her things. She is cruel, and his like of her makes no sense. He continues to have a crush on a girl he's never had a conversation with, who he's never talked to, and at the very end, maybe it's all okay because now maybe he can get Rose and, you know, no homo. Her presence in the play reduced her to love interest, which is something infuriating again as the daughter of Ron and Hermione, for her to just be love interest, but also her presence there was only a way to tie a neat heterosexual bow on the end of the play. Okay, this is a super long video. Those are the things I wanted to say about that. So a couple of last things I wanted to mention. I really liked Harry's conversations with Dumbledore. I am a person who doesn't really like Dumbledore as a character, and I think that he gets way too much hero worship. So I really appreciated the fact that Harry called him out on a lot of those things. Called him out on the fact that maybe he wasn't the best father figure. I loved, by the way, when Harry asks him for advice on raising a son and Dumbledore's like, you're asking me? Do you like remember what I did? My main problem with Dumbledore was that he left a child in an abusive situation, and I don't really think that there's an excuse for doing that, and I didn't love that some of that was still excused, because as I've said, abuse being excused does not make me happy. But I thought that Harry's conversation with Dumbledore was super important. It revealed a ton of baggage that Harry still has with Dumbledore. Harry, why would you name your son after the two men you have the most baggage with in the world? No wonder you have a hard relationship with him. My only problem with that conversation was that Dumbledore implied that his love was damaging, and since, you know, we're supposed to believe Dumbledore's gay, I don't really love that he said that. That's kind of terrible. I'd rather that Dumbledore didn't imply that his love was terrible and damaging. Like, wow. And okay, let's wrap it up with a positive note. Like I said, Scorpius was wonderful, but the thing that made this play feel the most like Harry Potter were the scenes at the very end with Lily and James, as well as the scene with Hagrid. The scene with Lily and James broke me. I cried. It felt like Harry Potter again, and Hagrid finding Harry was so emotional and so well done, and it hit exactly the right note. There's other stuff that went on with James and Lily that I think were plot holes, but that last scene, Harry having to witness that, was really hard to read, but in a very good way. Okay guys, that is all I have to say about Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I know that I'm super passionate about this play, but I think that we all have a ton of passion about Harry Potter, so I welcome discussion. I will talk to you about whatever in the comments, but let's keep it a little civil. If you're civil, I will be. I've seen some of my friends get really, really harshly attacked for saying any of their opinions on Harry Potter. So let's just keep it a healthy discussion and talk about what we liked and what we didn't, because I know some people really loved this play. I hope that you enjoyed the fact that I finally sat down and I read Cursed Child because you all asked me to. I'm sorry I didn't love it, but I hope that you appreciated the discussion. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video very soon. Bye!